I watched the Ashley Tisdale interview, and while the text of the interview was relatively generic, I was excited to work on this project kind of stuff, I was weirdly happy to see Tanner Zed again. Until the plague, this guy was the one who showed up on movie screens in Canada before the show starts to do a bunch of promotional interviews and advertise products. I used to specifically arrive at movies late to avoid pre-show ads, but after not seeing any movies in the past 18 months, it turns out I was missing the guy. The interview itself is fine. The only real takeaways being that Ms. Tisdale has no compunctions about playing a CIA agent, and that apparently she's never done a lot of theater since she was surprised to have an acting job where you have to work super hard for 10 hours a day. Anywho, let's look at a couple of things you can see in the clips they show during the interview. This metal piece here is the charging handle on an assault rifle. You pull on that in order to manually cycle the bolt and put the first round from a magazine into the chamber. It's not supposed to fly out like that when the gun fires though, or it would kind of boop you in the nose if you were trying to look down the scope whenever you pulled the trigger. Here's Rachel in some kind of a flesh pit, next to a bloody skeleton which looks like it's just recently had the flesh stripped from its bones. Is this right after she's fallen into the blood pool? Or maybe she gets grabbed and dropped with some other monster food? Maybe that skeleton is the body she uses to make her famous bone torch. Here Rachel has made it back up to the temple area, and she's using the machine gun to blast away at the monsters rushing up the collapsed tunnel. In this shot, we can see that Jason is also there, helping out. Here's Eric and Jason blocking a door as monsters try to break through. Maybe this is the distressed wooden post I thought was missing in the demo? In this scene, we've got Rachel and Jason looking at a computer screen, showing a monster moving through a small room and setting off a trap. They talk about whether the temple is mined, which raises the question, where did all these cameras, explosives, and computer equipment come from? We know they're not from the archaeologists. Maybe at some point the characters salvage all of it from one of their crashed helicopters and set up a defense perimeter? Not unlike the famous deleted sentry gun scene from Aliens. The computer and surveillance setup could belong to a third group that we're unaware of, but seeing as the computer seems to be set up in the tent inside the temple area, and it's not there when Rachel and Eric first arrive, it's a fair guess that the main characters set all this up at some point. Up until now, I'd assumed that Clarice was another CIA agent because she's dressed like Eric and Rachel, not like the Marines. But now we've discovered that she's a doctor working with Eric on the Kalis project, and Rachel assumes that they're sleeping together. Also, that's a ridiculously goth choker she's wearing. Not super great for a Special Forces mission. Based on this mocap session, we can glean that after she gets kidnapped by monsters, Clarice will be infected with something? I say infected instead of injured because Jason talks about medication being back at the temple, rather than first aid or a surgical kit. Is Clarice turning into a vampire in this scene? Do they know how to cure vampirism? Or maybe she just had bad allergies and lost her EpiPen. Who knows? Based on the landing time as compared to the time when Nick arrives at the caves, the whole explore the village, ambush starts sequence happens within a 45-minute window. This backs up the idea that the Iraqis knew the Marines were coming, as 45 minutes likely isn't enough time to find out the Marines are there and organize an ambush. Now we come to the clue that interests me the most. In the scene where Rachel is talking to someone inside a house, we can see two different hanging wooden charms. Note that they're long pieces of wood with wooden X's tied on either end. According to the Kalis files, this is the symbol that represents the cult that supports the Bat Monsters, the one they carve into the cultists' bodies. What does it mean that they're inside the house, though? Everywhere else we've seen, they were on the outside of tents, houses, and mountain walls. That placement makes sense, since they might act as a kind of a sign for monsters, telling them to pass over those buildings. Why have them inside a building, though? I can come up with just two obvious explanations. The first is that the people they're talking to are in the cult, and it's part of their religious observance, like having a shrine or a cross pinned to a wall. The second is that the monsters have avoided the area long enough that the details of the cult's activities have been forgotten, and now the symbol acts as nothing more than a good luck charm to ward off misfortune, with the people having no idea that at one point the symbol was literally protecting their lives. That's it for this half of the interview. The second half will presumably be in the special features section of the game, and have far more spoilers in it than this one does. I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe. Special thanks go out to my patrons Marissa, Desire, Eduardo, Joanne, and Brian. If you'd like to support the channel so I can continue making videos like this one, check out the Patreon link. If there's any other topics you'd like to see covered, be sure to mention them in the comments section below the video. See you back here for more dark pictures, but until then, au revoir.